Life on a farm is usually quiet, filled with the sounds of nature and the steady rhythm of hard work under the morning sun. But lately, that peace has been shattered by a silver SUV and a driver who thinks my private road is her personal shortcut to the city. This is our local HOA Karen. She's got a blonde bob, expensive sunglasses, and an attitude that says the rules don't apply to her. Every time she roars past, my livestock gets spooked, and my expensive farm equipment gets covered in a fresh layer of grit and grime. I tried to be a good neighbor. I stood by the fence and tried to wave her down, hoping a polite request would suffice. She didn't even tap the brakes. Instead, she just leaned out her window and yelled something about being late for her committee meeting. I put up slow down signs, thinking maybe she just didn't realize this was a private farm road. But that didn't help either. She actually went out of her way to clip one of them. That was the moment I realized being nice wasn't going to work. It was time for a more creative solution. I sat down in my workshop and looked at the layout of my property. I have a spot on the road where the drainage is naturally poor. It was the perfect place for a little landscape adjustment. The next morning, while she was busy at her HOA meeting, I brought out the tractor and got to work on the road. The trench wasn't deep enough to damage a car, but it was just deep enough to catch a vehicle that wasn't paying attention. I laid down some thin, lightweight boards across the gap, strong enough for a cat, but definitely not for a 3-ton luxury vehicle. Then, I covered the whole thing with a thin layer of loose hay and dust. From a distance, it looked like perfectly solid ground. As a final courtesy, I installed a brand new, very bright sign that clearly stated private road. No exit danger ahead. Like clockwork, I heard the roar of that engine coming down the hill. She was moving even faster than usual today. She blew right past the new sign without even looking. Her eyes were probably glued to her phone or her rearview mirror. She hit the hay-covered patch at 30 miles an hour. The boards gave way instantly, and the front end of that SUV dropped. The sound of the high-centered chassis hitting the dirt was one of the most satisfying things I've heard in years. The engine roared, and tires spun, throwing mud in every direction. But that luxury car wasn't going anywhere on its own. Karen climbed out of the driver's side, and let me tell you, her expensive leisure wear was not designed for a muddy farm trench. She started screaming at the empty fields, waving her arms and looking for someone to blame for her own poor decisions. That's when I pulled up slowly on my old tractor. It took my time, enjoying the view of the quiet, dust-free afternoon. I leaned out of the cab and just pointed to the sign. "Can't you read, Primera?" "Ask it. It says, no exit for a reason." She demanded I pull her out immediately. I told her I'd be happy to call a professional tow truck, but my tractor was for farm work only. I also mentioned that I had already called the sheriff to report a trespasser who had damaged my property and ignored safety signs. The look on her face when the patrol car pulled up was better than any harvest I've ever had. She wasn't the queen of this road anymore. The sheriff took his time writing the citations: speeding on private property, trespassing, and reckless driving. It was a long list. By the time the tow truck arrived to pull her out of my drainake, the sun was starting to set over the horizon. She hasn't been back since. I think the combination of the fine and the mud-stained interior of her SUV finally taught her a lesson. Now, the only things crossing my land are the ones that belong here. And the dust, well, it's finally settled for good.